Well, making more money does help solve a lot of problems, right? And most people's problems can be fixed with $100,000, but that is a band-aid for what's likely a deeper problem. And so when we identify, well, which of these places do I fall into, allowing ourselves the space to see, oh, wow, how is that showing up in my life? And how do I change that? So it doesn't become a fear anymore. It's something I learned to control so that money does not drive me.
Hi guys, welcome to another episode of Legacy Speaks. I am super excited to have this amazing conversation with my soror, and I look forward to being able to dive in a little bit deeper. It is going to be featuring Miss Tremaine Wills, and she is the founder behind Mind Over Money. And so I'm just going to claim some time for her to allow her to talk a little bit about herself and shed light on her products and services. And we're going to dive deeper into a healthy conversation about mental wellness and finances. So Tremaine, can you let the people know who you are, where you're from, and all about Mind Over Money?
Yeah. So first, thank you so much for having me on your platform. I appreciate you welcoming me into your space. It's always a blessing to be able to kind of step into someone else's space, because I don't take that lightly, right? We guard our circle. So thank you so much for that. But I'm Tremaine. Where should I start? I'm from Newport News, Virginia. If you're unfamiliar with the area, it's Southern Virginia near Virginia Beach, the Hampton Roads area. Born and raised there. I went to Hampton University, which was probably one of the best decisions I ever made. But it was 12 minutes from my mother's house. So I was raised in like this community atmosphere, just wanted to stay close to home, and like the perfect opportunity fell in my lap to be able to do that. But one of the reasons I started Mind Over Money was because I had no idea how finances worked. After Hampton University, I went into the investment world as a financial specialist, and I quickly realized that I didn't know any of these things that this company was talking about. And when I left that place, I came back and I was like, you know what? I'm going to teach our community, because this is some good stuff that we don't talk about. And I want to make a safe space for people to be able to have conversation and ask questions and really start their journey to building wealth. So I took that community atmosphere that I got from like my personal background, and then coupled it with the education around investing, and Mind Over Money just happened.
Absolutely love it. There's so many things about that I really appreciate, especially when you talked about the community aspect. I know in the mental health field, we talk a lot about support, recognizing that there's two types of support, whether it's like instrumental or even emotional. And so reminding people that they don't have to go at this alone. And the fact that you literally walk with your clients hand in hand, making sure that they know that there are resources out there, and there's ways to tackle this thing collaboratively rather than solo dolo. So thank you so much for your approach, especially when it comes to destigmatizing financial wellness within communities of color.
Yeah, I think in the past, decade now that I've been doing this work, one of the barriers that I've heard people say as to why they don't get help is because they don't want to feel like this shame, or they don't want to be talked down to because they didn't know, or financial trauma or something in their behavior just caused them to choose different decisions. And like, nobody wants to feel bad about what we're already making ourselves. Like, we're beating ourselves up about it. So I don't need an advisor to come in and say, you shouldn't have done that, right? So many of us steer away from getting help because like, I don't want to get beat up again. I've already beat myself up.
Yes, definitely. And even when we're talking about the concept of shame, right? Shame says that I am bad, whereas guilt says like I did something bad. And so challenging those negative ways of thinking that are very intergenerational in nature, sometimes it's hard for us to even figure out where to start because maybe our parents didn't have the tools or the resources or the wherewithal to start, or maybe we did come from a family that was very financially savvy, but when we become adults, we have to figure this thing out on our own. So I really do appreciate that perspective as well. There was something on your website that you put, and you said wealth doesn't grow on hope. And that really stood out to me because when it comes to our finances, you have to be very intentional with financial planning. And so for anybody out there who is really trying to get their footing when it comes to the financial planning space, what tips or how-tos would you advise in this particular setting?
This is really my favorite question not to answer, right? Because many times people are looking for like these technical, like levers to pull, right?
Mhm.
Open an IRA, or put more money into your 401k, or open a high yield savings account, right? We're looking for some of those things to do when the real work of creating a financial plan, it actually is in your mind, right? You have to see where you want to go and believe you're going to go there before pulling any of these levers will even work, right? I can tell you all the things to do, right? Max out your 401k, set aside $6,000 into that IRA, cut back on your spending, right? I can give you all the things. But if you don't have a clear place where you're trying to go, it doesn't matter what things I say, you won't stick with the plan because you're not sure where it's going to take you.
Mm.
So if you are at this place where you're like, I don't know what to do, like, it really is a matter of just taking some time to sit back and identify, what do I want from this life? It's not about the money at all. It's so much more than the dollar amount that you need to have in a nest egg, right? It really is, what am I trying to create? What is the path that I want to go down? Where do I want my money to take me? And when you have a picture of that idea, then you can start to put the things in place to make it happen. But so many of us, we're just going through these motions of, oh, I know I'm supposed to work this job and I know I should set this money aside. And so I'm stashing money into this savings account. And so when you dip into it, you don't really feel bad because you don't see it as taken away from the future that you're creating. It's just money, right? So the biggest thing, and I don't mean to sound all like fluffy and out there, right? But the biggest thing really is you got to figure out what you want. And nobody can define that for you. And so one of the things I love about being on this journey with my clients is allowing them the space to dream. This just think of the things that you want, because you really got to see it before you can ever actually get there. And sometimes we don't take the time to just stop and just dream the dreams. Like, where do I want to go? And we get stuck where we are, just on the treadmill, or the hamster wheel.
Yeah,
Just going
definitely.
through it.
When you were describing that, I thought about an exercise that I do with my own clients. Usually when we're talking about like goals for the therapeutic process, I'm like, draw a line, and then on that line, put where you were at, then put the ideal self, and then draw the little stick figure version of yourself along the spectrum between where you were and where you want to be. And that gives us a better idea of where you are, and we can look at ways to close the gap in between where we are versus the ideal self. And the ability to be able to dream and imagine yourself at the fullest potential without any restrictions and unapologetically, it creates space for people to find ways to like reverse engineer. Like, this is the picture without any limitations, and let's see what ways that we can practically work towards those goals. So I absolutely love that.
Yeah. I like that. I'm still that stick figure on the mountain.
Love it, love it, love it. You mentioned something in terms of like mindset, right? And when it comes to being the woman that you are with your particular journey to certification, can we dive into that a little bit deeper? What mindset did you have when it came to becoming the professional expert that you are in the financial space?
You know, it has been a process. To be completely honest, when I first started this journey, it was out of just this sheer, I don't know. And I feel inadequate because I don't know, right? And so after passing some exams, I got this like chip on my shoulder, like, yeah, I did that. But as I've been learning and studying and failing and learning some more, I'm understanding that it's not so much the process of certification that is fulfilling me. It's the unlearning of this need to have the answers all the time. And so I don't know if that makes sense, but I grew up a high achiever, right? I was in all the advanced classes. Just learning came natural to me, and I never really had to apply myself. And it wasn't until getting these investment licenses and getting my certification for financial planning and just the process of becoming a registered advisor that I realized there's so much stuff I still don't know. And the first time I failed a test, it was on the tax planning portion of the certified financial planning curriculum. And man, that thing beat me up. I failed, and I felt so bad for not passing on the first time. And to be honest, it derailed me. It took me 2 or 3 years to try to pass that course again. And I felt so defeated because all I had known prior to that was I'm good at testing. I can pass tests. And so it had me questioning like the core of who I was, right? Oh, well, obviously you're not good at testing because you failed this test, right? And as I came back to it and revisited that curriculum several years later, I started to understand like the application of finance with the experience of actually seeing it in real life. Right. There's one thing to understand tax strategy and estate planning and some of these more complicated pieces of finance than it is to actually have a lived experience from maybe, family or peers or friends of the family, right? And so it had me thinking about just my place in the investment world and how it's so unique, because I can imagine that there are so many of my clients that have never seen anyone need an estate plan. So kind of stepping into this space of, oh, that intimidates me because I have no idea what that looks like in real life. And then being the professional that had to go through that. So now I see why it was necessary, because I'm able to bridge the gap of this community that might be intimidated about the conversation because, oh, I've heard about that thing, but what does that actually look like? And like feeling those feelings. It was so surreal to kind of process and go through that, because it made me understand just a little bit more what that's like to feel inadequate for something that's not even your fault, like when we don't have those experiences, it's hard to conceptualize what that looks like in real life. Like a textbook strategy of the intricacies of tax, on multi-million-dollar estates, when I don't know anybody who's ever retired. Like the gap between that for me just was like, wow, this is why I had to step into this, because I have to do this work. There has to be more of us that have the problems of trying to figure out, how do I pass on my estate when it's more than $15 million, right? I want that to be a normal problem that we have.
This year has been a whirlwind, hasn't it? And I'm pretty sure that you and your business have had to make a number of changes as a result of the pandemic. But I need you to get really present right now. Let's tap into the here and now in this very moment. When was the last time you truly checked in on your team? As a matter of fact, when was the last time that you truly thought about how you and your team are mentally and emotionally navigating through all of the adjustments that are taking place? But guess what? I'm here to help with that. Hi, my name is Sierra Hillsman, and I'm a licensed professional counselor and certified clinical trauma professional. I work with small businesses and corporations by helping their teams explore their presenting concerns. That way we can increase employee engagement and improve productivity overall. This can be done through in-person or online lunch and learn events, corporate workshops, and organizational seminars. Click the link below. That way you can start to learn how to truly invest in the overall mental and emotional wellness of your team. Love it. And I think the beautiful thing about your journey is the fact that you were able to provide yourself some level of grace, right? So instead of not only feeling defeated, but staying defeated, you recognize that there's new experience. I know when I talk with my clients, there's a difference between data, knowledge, and wisdom. So data is just the information that we get from books or infographics, things of that nature. Knowledge is when we're able to actually conceptualize it and digest it, but it doesn't become wisdom until we actually are able to practically apply it to our day-to-day living. And so that also comes with like experience, strength, and hope. And it also creates like a brag box, so to speak, where we can refer back to like all of our strengths or maybe even situations that we were able to overcome. And so shout out to you for your honesty and your transparency in this moment, because there's probably some listeners out there who are wanting to get certified or are wanting to figure out, where do I start? And so they're able to see another woman of color to express, hey, this was difficult for me, but please don't be hard on yourself. We can find ways to overcome this and work towards like that ideal self we were talking about earlier.
Yeah, thanks. Another thing I wanted to add too is I think in our community, we have this tendency to shield our losses from the public, right? And so that was very much me. I was very much just going to suffer in silence. And then one day I was like, you know what? No. I'm on a journey, and people need to see that I did not just pop up overnight, that this was not easy, that there are less than 4% of Black certified financial planners. And part of this is because of how difficult it is. And so just starting to talk about the challenges, I ended up finding a community that like put their arms around me, right? And I was like, oh my goodness, I didn't know you guys existed. But that was because I wasn't being vulnerable before. And so I, most recently, I had another challenge of coming up on the last part of this journey with the estate planning piece. And I was just like, man, this thing is beating me up. And that same community, they came in, they gave me a hug, and they were like, you know, these are the struggles that I experienced too. And I was like, okay, like normalizing that it is not a perfect picture, perfect highlight reel, that there are some challenges to overcome. And so when I did make it past that hurdle, I was like, yes, there are people who are celebrating with me because I was brave enough to say, hey, it's not sunshine and roses over here.
Yes. But then it goes back to that concept of like strength and vulnerability, right? So there are a lot of people who are dealing with some type of struggle, whether it's a mental health concern or maybe a financial concern. And I think for us as being Black women, we are very resilient in nature. And so we've always been taught to be independent and like always look good, put this mask on, button it up, you know, only talk to a select few of people about it. But then maybe, I don't know if I want to talk about it because I might be deal with some level of rejection or disappointment and stuff like that. And so normalizing the ability to share what you're going through, even in the midst of a struggle, because it allows you to get outside of yourself. It allows you to connect with other individuals. And even if they may not have those shared experiences, it gives them an opportunity to be like, oh, wow, I never really knew that it was this difficult. I never really knew that people go through this thing. So I really appreciate that.
Yeah.
Definitely. All righty. So I want to dive into the service that you have, which I find to be simply amazing, Secure the Plan. And the reason why I love this is because, you know, over the last year, it's always been secure the bag, secure the bag. And I'm like, no, we got to figure out how we can plan this thing out in order to get to the bag. So can you please tell us a little bit about Secure the Plan?
Yeah. So secure the plan is like, that's my baby, right? I'm a planner. And so I feel like that adage, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. So many times we try to do things off a whim, and then we're looking crazy like, oh, well, why didn't that work? Because you ain't have no plan. That's why it didn't work. Okay. That's why. So secure the plan. This is my like, it's my core, right?
Yeah.
When you have a strategy, a plan in place, no matter if it's financial or not, right? It just makes you so much more confident. When you know, like, I got to do this, and this, right? You just get this like energy, this confidence about you, like, I got it, right? Like the night before, when I write out what I'm doing for the next day, I don't have no anxiety, no stress about nothing because I know the plan, the strategy, right?
Yeah.
So when you apply that to your finances, it helps build your confidence in your money because it takes away some of that chaos, some of that stress, some of that unknown about what's going to happen, and you get this clarity about, okay, I'm doing this and this is what my outcome will be.
Mm-hmm.
Now you can move bold, right? You don't have to have this timid meekness about it. So that's what security plan is. It is an opportunity for you to get structure around your money that allows you to move with confidence. When we are confident, we execute, we show up, like we operate as our best selves. I cannot be my best self if I am stressed about money. And so having that plan in place, whatever that looks like for you, that's what allows you to show up as your best self because you have strategy behind what you do.
Yeah, strategy is very important, especially when it comes to creating direction for our finances. When I talk about wellness overall, I try to divide it up into like the 8 dimensions of wellness, financial wellness being important. A lot of people only tend to focus on themselves from like a mental, emotional, and physical standpoint, but financial wellness is important because we're looking at our relationship with money and how we look at money. Do we look at it as a tool for freedom? Do we look at it as an opportunity for us to invest and develop some generational wealth? Is it an opportunity for us to combat generational trauma when it comes to finances? So I really appreciate the plan in place because in order for us to break those generational curses when it comes to our finances, we really have to sit down and practice relentless honesty with the way that we look at our finances.
Yeah, yeah. It's so key to understanding that relationship, right? When I can have an objective, honest conversation, like you were saying, it helps clear the air. Sometimes we just want to sweep stuff under the rug and we want to ignore it. But if you don't get to the root of that thing, it doesn't go away. It just becomes that much tougher to address because now I'm solidifying these habits, these beliefs that I have. So being able to really have an honest conversation, like, how do I feel about this? Um, to mitigate anything that might be pushing us in the wrong way is key.
Yes. And you talked a lot about writing it out and making it plain. Are there
Mhm.
any affirmations that you have that you say to yourself or that you encourage clients to keep in their repertoire to help combat that negative thinking when it comes to their finances?
Absolutely. So I got a whole list of affirmations. I'm not going to run down all of them, but some of the ones that I would like to leave you with is saying to yourself that I am disciplined enough to follow my money plan. Um, Wealth and abundance flow to me easily. Um, I'm trying to skip the ones that don't apply to money because I got a whole bunch,
It's
but
okay.
um, I am just saying that I am wealthy. Yeah, I think those are the ones that relate to finance enough. But just having a plan and a strategy and speaking positive affirmations that relate to what you believe, not even just about your finances, but just in general about yourself. So, and just this core that everything you need is already within you, right? We don't have to go out and find and seek and go validate, right? You are enough as you are. I think that as a core like guiding light, I ain't gonna go into philosophy, but just, you have to have this central just belief and truth of what you know is real, and aligning your finances into that, and making sure that you don't believe that there's lack, that there is no competition, that you are worth getting paid more, right? Will help you just move into a different space. I think, especially for Black women, we tend to repel finances. We reject money sometimes because we don't value ourselves. And so when you get back to this core that I am enough, well, oh, y'all don't want to pay me a raise? Well, let me go somewhere else because I am enough. And what you're paying me is not enough for what I'm worth. So we got to just release these fears of, well, I got to stick with this job because I don't know what I'm going to do. You do know, it's this confidence. Like I think it just all goes back to a core, like just belief that you are valuable. Everything you touch is blessed. And so when you just have that unshakable faith that you already have what you need, it'll be provided. But I think so many of us have just been stripped and told otherwise, and we started to believe something different. So look, I ain't gonna preach tonight, but
listen, I'm like, let's go. Let's freaking go. Okay.
Yeah.
Love it.
So if I had to narrow it down to affirmations, I would even move away from just thinking about money, because I really believe that money is a resource. It is energy. It is an extension of who we are. And so when you truly believe that you are enough and everything you touch is blessed, then everything you need is already here. So I want us to, like, I know this is a conversation about money, but I really don't want it to be about money. It's so much bigger than that.
Yes, absolutely. I was just like, even at the core of it, it's about exploring like solution focused and strength-based strategies, right? And making sure that you recognize that there are so many gifts and talents that you can leverage that's already inside of you. And I think that's the one thing that I appreciate about your perspective as a financial planner, because you recognize that if we don't get this mindset situation under control, then that money or the ability to invest or the ability to be able to like strategize is not going to be as impactful. And you create this level of intentionality that causes people to sit down and to question their relationship with money. And so that's why I'm just like, oh, I really had to have this conversation with you, because we could have went in so many different directions, but I appreciate the fact that we're starting this conversation off with the concept of a mindset.
Yeah. So I don't know how deep you want to dive into it, but if folks are listening and you're trying to figure out, well, what is my relationship with money? There are 4 money scripts. And so we all fall into one of these categories. There is money avoidance. This is when you start to think that, oh, well, money is bad. People who have wealth are greedy. And so unconsciously, you think that if you attract wealth or if you build any level of wealth, you too will become bad. And so that was one that I had when I was first starting on this journey. I didn't realize I was associating wealth with a negative characteristic. And so I had to unlearn that thing. Okay.
Yes.
But that money avoidance, that's one. Then you have money vigilance. This happens when you begin to hoard money for fear of becoming broke or being broke ever again. So what that might look like is you're really good at going to make money. You might even be really, really great at saving money, but you are very hesitant to take any risk with it. So you won't do the investing. It might not even be in a savings account, right? It might be sitting in some envelopes under the mattress because, well, what happens if the bank fails, right?
Yes.
But underneath that, there's this fear of being poor. And so your mindset is, I'm going to do whatever it takes so that I'll never feel that feeling again. And if that means I lose out on opportunities, so be it. At least I got this cash, right? So that's money vigilance. Then there is money status. Unfortunately, this is the one that is ripping our community's net worth to shreds. Mm-hmm. This is the one where you correlate how you appear to show up in the community, where the outfits that you wear, the home that you purchase, the car that you drive, you want that to show up as, oh, this makes me feel like I'm worth more. So I spend all my money on these things and I'm not actually building any wealth. And so money status is where you connect your net worth to your self-worth, and you don't feel good when you don't have a lot of money. And so I think for many of us, because we have connected our net worth to our self-worth, and when we feel like we don't have enough money, we don't want to have the conversation because that means I'm not worth anything.
Right.
And then lastly is money worship. And this is probably one of the most dangerous ones, where you think that money is the answer to everything. And so no matter what the problem is, it's just throwing money at it. Oh, making more money will fix it. Well, making more money does help solve a lot of problems, right? And most people's problems can be fixed with $100,000, but that is a Band-Aid for what's likely a deeper problem. And so when we identify, well, which of these places do I fall into, allowing ourselves the space to see, oh, wow, how is that showing up in my life? And how do I change that so it doesn't become a fear anymore? It's something I learned to control so that money does not drive me.
Definitely. I think even when we are attempting to dismantle those money scripts, it's one, figuring out where they came from. I think when I talk to my clients about challenging like cognitive distortions or like maladaptive ways of thinking, I encourage them to catch it, check it, change it. So when a negative thought comes up, catch that thought, then check the validity of that thought. When we check the validity of it, we're checking the source of it. Where did it come from? Was this something that was passed on to me? Was this something that I acquired through the media? Any books that I read? Is this something that's coming from within, that's based upon how I feel about myself? Am I projecting the way that I view a certain situation based upon how I feel about myself? And then changing that thought to something that's not only positive, but also solution focused as well. And the reason why I really like to hone in on the solution focused part is because we have a tendency of slapping toxic positivity on top of our problems, instead of like using that avoidance or that denial piece or pretending like everything is okay. It's important for us to acknowledge it, identify the feelings associated with these circumstances, and then also finding ways to say, hey, how can I course correct? How can I redirect my way of thinking so that I can help mitigate what I'm experiencing in this moment? So thank you so much for doing that breakdown for all four of those ways of thinking.
Yeah, that was good. I like it. You said catch it, check it.
Yes, catch it, check it, change it. Yes.
Change it. Okay. I was thinking a Missy Elliott song in my head. I'm like, that ain't what she said.
Love it. Absolutely love it. Oh my word. Tremaine, can you please let the people know where they can find you? And also, can you please let them know how they can stay in contact with you and where they can find more about your services?
Yeah. So I am like everywhere on social media. I feel like Visa, everywhere you want to be, right?
Yeah.
But at Tremaine Wills, it's at Tremaine Wills on every platform. Literally all of them, where we can stay connected. I share a lot about my journey as an advisor in this space, and just what it's like to be a person of color, like in the wealth industry. Like it's different, y'all. It's different. I do try to share like some of the wins of my clients, but I try to keep that to a minimum, right? People don't want you telling their business. I'll never drop a name, but I do like to share that, real things are happening in our community. Change is happening. There are people that are going from literally nothing to putting themselves in position to retire. So if you're looking to start a conversation or, just ask some questions, you can visit me at mindovermoney.net. Any of the buttons that you click will direct you to book an appointment with me, where you'll be able to kind of talk through what your strategy might look like. Just ask some questions. And if we're not a good fit, I'm always looking for ways to provide a solution, because I don't want anybody to leave me and not get what they need. So I typically work with women of color, but if you are not a woman of color and you have nowhere to go, feel free to reach out and I'll still make sure I get you connected.
Absolutely love it. Y'all, please make sure that you tap into her via social media as well as her website. You can find her at mindovermoney.net, and you can also tap into her via email as well. Tremaine, as always, I always like to ask this question before I end an interview with a guest. But as you know, this is the Legacy Speaks podcast. And so the question that I do want to close out with is, what would you like your legacy to speak about you?
Oh my goodness. I think about this so much. So I have a personal mission statement, and my mission is to leave this world empty of every talent and resource that God has granted me. And I'll know when that is happened or when that is done because so many people will be in a space of financial freedom. So if I had it my way, there'd be no poverty, right? There'd be no wealth gap. But my heart's desire is to do this, that, to know that I've given everything that I had.
Love it. Y'all, once again, thank you so much, Ms. Tremaine Wills, for your time and your expertise are greatly appreciated. And once again, y'all, this is Legacy Speaks podcast. I'm Sierra Hillsman, licensed professional counselor. Follow me at Legacy SPKS on everything, as well as legacyspks.com. Until next time.